What was the fertile soil created by the regular flooding of the Nile River, referred to as Black Land, called? Kemet. What are the two major rivers of the Mesopotamian civilization? Tigris River and Euphrates River. How many articles are there in the Code of Hammurabi? 282. What alloy did the Mesopotamians first use? Bronze, a mixture of copper and tin. What was a favored means of transportation used by the Mesopotamians? Cart. What weapons did the Mesopotamians use for war? Bronze swords, spears. Where was King Tutankhamun's tomb found? Luxor. What did the flooding of the Nile primarily bring? Fertile soil. For which god was the Karnak temple built? Amun. In which river basin did the Indus civilization develop? Indus River. Through what means did the Indus civilization trade with other regions? Maritime trade. What were the primary means of transport used by the Indus civilization? Carts and boats. What is the internal structure of a pyramid like? Several chambers and passageways. For whom were the smaller pyramids near the Great Pyramid of Giza primarily built? Queens. What are the 5 constant virtues, Wuchang, that Confucius emphasized people should uphold? Benevolence, righteousness, propriety, wisdom, fidelity. What was Emperor Qin Shi Huang's most cherished treasure symbolizing the unification of China? He Shi Bai jade seal. What did the top of the temple signify in Babylonia? Connection between heaven and the gods. What information can be learned from the murals on Assyrian palace walls? King's conquests and lifestyle. What did Assyrian physicians reportedly do before treating patients? Astrology. What were Assyrian records made from? Clay tablets. Where did the Assyrian king swear allegiance to the gods? Temple. In ancient mythology, what is the monster with the body of a human and the head of a bull? Minotaur. Who flew too close to the sun and fell, desiring to fly? Icarus. What enabled the Minoan civilization to maintain a powerful maritime force? Strong naval power. Besides the bull, which animal played a significant role in religious rituals of the Minoan civilization? Snake. What was the primary reason the palace structure of the Minoans had a complex labyrinthine shape? Central hub for administration, religion, and economy. What is the event where Dorians migrated south, causing the collapse of Mycenaean civilization. Dorian invasion. What region on the Peloponnesian Peninsula is Sparta located in ancient Greece? Peloponnesus. Who is the goddess of the hearth and home among the 12 Olympian gods? Hestia. Who is the legendary monster that tested King Oedipus of Thebes? Sphinx. Who was the valiant prince and warrior of Troy during the Trojan War? Hector. Who is the philosopher who proposed the theory of forms and wrote The Republic? Plato. What is the assembly where Athenian citizens gathered to discuss state policies? Assembly. What was the method used in Athens to elect public officials? Lottery system. What was the system in ancient Athens where citizens were selected to hold specific positions? Selection of public officials. What was the central area densely packed with temples and public buildings in Athens? Acropolis. What was the biggest reason for Athens' defeat in the Sicilian expedition? Loss of troops and lack of supplies. Who was the general leading the Theban forces that defeated Sparta at the Battle of Leuctra? Epaminondas. Who was the general leading the Persian army at the Battle of Plataea? Mardonius. What strategy did the Greeks use to defeat the Persian fleet at the Battle of Salamis? Lured them into a narrow strait. Who was one of the greatest kings of the Achaemenid Persian Empire? Darius I. Who was the king that supported the Persian army in the Battle of Marathon? Darius I. What was the main type of ship used by the Persian navy at the Battle of Salamis? Large galleys. Who was the founder of the Persian Empire? Cyrus the Great. What did the Phoenicians develop that served as the foundation for later writing systems? Alphabet. What was the key reason the Phoenicians prospered through maritime trade? Superior shipbuilding and navigation skills. What series of wars involved Carthage and Rome? Punic Wars. What special animals did Hannibal utilize when attacking Rome? War elephants. What unexpected route did Hannibal take to attack Rome? Alps Mountains. Where did the earliest development occur in the Oriental civilization? Mesopotamia. What are the representative scripts of the Oriental civilization? Cuneiform and hieroglyphs. What special reward was given to winners of the ancient Greek Olympics? Olive wreath. What strategy did Cyrus II use to conquer Babylon? Diverting the river to enter the city. How is the Cyrus cylinder regarded in terms of its value? First declaration of human rights in the world. What were the major regions Cyrus II conquered during the expansion of the Persian Empire? Lydia, Media, Babylon. Who was the father of Cambyses II? Cyrus II, Cyrus the Great. What policy did Alexander the Great implement to integrate Persian and Greek cultures? Policy of Orientalization. What cultures fused to create Gandhara art? Hellenistic and Buddhist cultures. Which mountain was believed to be the residence of the major gods in ancient Greek religion? Mount Olympus. In what year did Carthage ultimately fall to Rome? Year 146 BC. What was the main trade commodity that brought economic prosperity to Carthage? Gold, silver, purple dye. What method did ancient Babylonian astrologers use to predict the future? Celestial observation. In what year did Nebuchadnezzar II destroy the kingdom of Judah? (586 BC). What was the battle in which Nebuchadnezzar II excelled as a crown prince before becoming king? Battle of Carchemish. What important river passed through the walls of Babylon? Euphrates River. What was one of Nebuchadnezzar II's major military achievements that strengthened the Babylonian Empire? Conquest of the Kingdom of Judah. Who was the king of the Persian Empire recorded by Herodotus? Darius I. Herodotus is known as the historian of which ancient civilization? Ancient Greece. What is a main weakness of the phalanx tactics? Vulnerability to flanking and rear attacks. What tactic did the Spartan army use against weaker enemies? Flank breakthrough. Why was the sacred band powerful? Comradeship and rigorous training. What is the philosophical method advocated by Socrates for exploring truth through questioning? Dialectic method, Socratic dialogue. In which city was Socrates born? Athens. What concept did Aristotle emphasize as the role of art? Catharsis. Where in Rome was the triumph held? Forum Romanum. What was the name of the short sword commonly used by Roman legionaries? Gladius. What was the council convened by Emperor Constantine known as? Council of Nicaea. What were the main reasons for the decline of the Roman economy in the late Roman Empire? Excessive taxes and inflation. What did Rome offer to the Germanic tribes to appease them in the late Roman Empire? Settlement rights and participation as mercenaries in the Roman army. What religion played an important role in the transition to the medieval feudal society in Europe after the fall of the Western Roman Empire? Christianity. What were the main reasons for the longer duration of the Eastern Roman Empire compared to the Western Roman Empire? Economic prosperity and strong administration. Who was the first king of Rome? Romulus. What animal nurtured Romulus and Remus in Roman mythology? She-wolf. What is one of the oldest roads built during the Roman kingdom? Via Salaria. What class sought to check the power of the king towards the end of the Roman kingdom? Aristocracy. What is the peaceful period emphasized by Augustus in the Roman Empire called? Pax Romana. What did Roman emperors provide to gain the support of the citizens? Bread and circuses. Which early Roman emperor focused on building fortifications and defense? Hadrian. What structures did early Roman emperors erect to commemorate military achievements? Triumphal arches. What was one of the significant military defense strategies used by early Roman emperors? Construction of walls and fortresses. What was the most significant right gained by plebeians through political struggle against the patricians in the Roman Republic? Right to elect tribunes. Who were the two figures who fought over power in Rome after Caesar's death? Octavian and Antony. The Seleucid Empire was a representative dynasty resulting from the fusion of which two cultures? Greek and Persian cultures. What was the name of the battle where the Seleucid Empire suffered defeat to Rome? Battle of Magnesia. What city, housing the ancient world's most famous library, was the capital of the Ptolemaic dynasty? Alexandria. How is Cleopatra's death traditionally described? Suicide by snakebite, asp. What is the term for peasants who worked on the Lord's land? Serfs. What was the main basis of power in feudal society? Land ownership. Who was the highest religious authority in medieval Europe? Pope. Who painted The Last Supper? Leonardo da Vinci. What phenomenon occurred in cities due to the Industrial Revolution? Population concentration. What impact did the Industrial Revolution have on social structure? Deepened class differentiation. What was the demand to reduce working hours during the Industrial Revolution? Eight-hour workday. When did World War I begin? Year 1914. Which countries were part of the Allied powers during World War I? United Kingdom, France, Russia, etc. In World War I, around which front were trench wars primarily conducted? Western Front. Which nation was held most responsible by the Treaty of Versailles? Germany. What organization was established for peace after World War I? League of Nations. What impact did World War I have on the Russian Revolution? War chaos sparked revolution. What type of state did Plato see as ideal? Philosopher king state. How did Aristotle classify political systems? Monarchy, aristocracy, and democracy. How was the pharaoh regarded in Egypt? As a representative of the gods. What did ancient Indian kings gain through Buddhism? Legitimacy of rule. What is an example of the Industrial Revolution's impact on politics? Demand for workers' suffrage. What event significantly swayed American public opinion during World War I? The Lusitania Incident. How did the victorious countries of World War I divide colonies? Mandate system. What chemical weapon were soldiers afraid of during World War I? Poison gas. What was the purpose behind Qin Shi Huang's book burning? Ideological unification and maintenance of power. What role did the Byzantine Empire play as a repository of medieval knowledge? A center of culture and knowledge. What theme does the Epic of Gilgamesh explore? The quest for eternal life. What is the name of the first legal code used in Mesopotamia? Code of Hammurabi. Who was the first great Khan of the Mongol Empire who conquered and ruled over Eurasia? Genghis Khan. Who was the female leader in French history revered as a saint for her role in the 100 Years' War? Joan of Arc. What was the weapon first used to break through trenches in World War I? Tank. What was the main purpose for which ancient kings used religion in governance? To gain obedience and legitimacy for rule. In what fields have Confucian ideas influenced today? Politics, ethics, education. Who was the first emperor of Rome and how did he govern? Augustus, with disciplined rule. Besides political power, what other authority did Byzantine emperors hold? Divine representative. In Hinduism, who is one of the representative gods who appears among the many deities? Vishnu. What is the Italian city famous for its canals and gondolas? Venice. In the Frankish kingdom, who was the powerful official that governed on behalf of the king, known as Mayor of the Palace? The mayor of the palace. What were the military alliances of the United States and the Soviet Union during the Cold War? NATO, Warsaw Pact. What was the literary movement emphasizing human-centered philosophy during the Renaissance? Humanism. What stone played a crucial role in deciphering ancient Egyptian scripts? Rosetta Stone. What religion greatly influenced the culture of the Byzantine Empire? Greek Orthodox Christianity. Who was the Khan that occupied the western regions and established the Golden Horde? Batu Khan. Who was the leader of the parliamentary side during the English Civil War? Cromwell. What was one of the obligations that serfs had to provide to lords in medieval Europe? Labor service. What was one of the most severe conditions imposed on Germany by the Treaty of Versailles after World War I? Massive reparations. What was the name of the colonial militia that fought against the British Army during the American Revolutionary War? Continental Army. Who was the last emperor of the Western Roman Empire when it fell? Romulus Augustulus. What is the term for the code of conduct or ideal image of a knight during the European Middle Ages? Chivalry. Who was the renowned painter of the Renaissance who created Mona Lisa and The Last Supper? Leonardo da Vinci. Who was the Greek physician known as the father of medicine, who emphasized the natural causes of diseases? Hippocrates. How did the increasing intellectual curiosity from exposure to Eastern science and culture after the Crusades influence the Renaissance? Revival of learning. What was the event that triggered the American Revolution, where the British imposed a tax on tea in the colonies? Boston Tea Party. What is the expansionist policy pursued by powers in the 19th century for acquiring colonies called? Imperialism. Who was the Venezuelan revolutionary that led to the independence of several South American countries from Spain? Simón Bolívar. Who was the emperor that founded the first unified empire in China, the Qin, and began the construction of the Great Wall? Qin Shi Huang. What is the international conference held in 1814 to reorganize European order after the Napoleonic Wars called? Congress of Vienna. What is the revolution where slaves in a French colony established the First Black Republic? Haitian Revolution. Who were the people that first used iron to establish the Hittite Empire? Hittites. What is the kingdom that created the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, one of the 7 wonders of the world? Neo-Babylonian Empire. Who was the king in ancient India that compiled and spread Buddhist scriptures? Ashoka the Great. What is the movement called that expelled Islamic forces from medieval Spain? Reconquista. Who is the painter famous for studying human proportion during the Renaissance? Leonardo da Vinci. What was the major slogan of the Meiji Restoration in Japan? Enrich the country, strengthen the military. What is the period called when the United States and the Soviet Union were in a state of political and military tension? Cold War. Which Italian astronomer was tried for advocating heliocentrism? Galileo Galilei. Who was the British Enlightenment thinker that advocated natural rights and the social contract theory? John Locke. What artifact was a crucial clue for deciphering the hieroglyphs used in ancient Egypt? Rosetta Stone. Who was the leader that carried out the Cuban Revolution and established a socialist regime? Fidel Castro. Which ancient Anatolian kingdom initiated the Iron Age? Hittite Empire. What is the name of the chief god believed in by the ancient Greeks? Zeus. Who was called the Great Sultan for expanding the Ottoman Empire to its greatest territorial extent and compiling a legal code? Suleiman the Magnificent. Who was the founder of the Safavid dynasty in the early 16th century, making Shia Islam the state religion in Iran? Ismail I. What is the name of the large-scale peasant rebellion led by Hong Xiuquan at the end of the Qing dynasty? Taiping Rebellion. What was the event in the Balkans at the early 20th century that triggered World War I? Assassination in Sarajevo. Which European country colonized most of South America? Spain. Who was the Tsar who westernized and modernized the Russian Empire during the 17th and 18th centuries? Peter the Great. Who was the U.S. president who led the Union to victory during the American Civil War? Abraham Lincoln. What is the trade company established by the Dutch for trade with India called? Dutch East India Company. What was the name of the Soviet Union's first artificial satellite? Sputnik. Who was the leader in North Vietnam who led communism during the Vietnam War? Ho Chi Minh. Who is the leader that founded and led the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO? Yasser Arafat. What is the name of the Islamic extremist organization that orchestrated the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks? Al-Qaeda. Who was the Spanish conquistador that conquered the Inca Empire? Francisco Pizarro. Which Polish astronomer first proposed heliocentrism? Copernicus. What was the 1911 revolution that overthrew the Qing dynasty in China? Chennai Revolution. What was the name of the guerrilla forces of North Vietnam's communists during the Vietnam War? Viet Cong. What is the name of the Grand Palace built by Louis XIV of France? Palace of Versailles. What was the name of the failed industrialization policy pursued in 1960s China? Great Leap Forward. What was the dynasty of Cyrus the Great, who founded the ancient Persian Empire? Achaemenid dynasty. What was the system in ancient Athens for exiling dangerous individuals? Ostracism. What was the conflict over the investiture rights between the Pope and the Emperor in medieval Europe? Investiture controversy. Who was the priest that sparked the Mexican independence movement in 1810? Hidalgo. What was the name of the project during World War II for the development of the atomic bomb in the USA? Manhattan Project. Where was the sanctuary people visited to receive oracles in ancient Greece? Delphi. What is the term for the Spanish fleet that was defeated in 1588? Spanish Armada. What was the policy proclaimed by the USA in 1823 rejecting European colonial intervention? Monroe Doctrine. Who was the notorious gang leader during the Prohibition era in the 1920s USA? Al Capone. Who was the legendary female activist that helped slaves escape via the Underground Railroad? Harriet Tubman. Who was the national poet and revolutionary leader of the 1848 Hungarian independence movement? Petofi. What city, the capital of the Aztec Empire, became present-day Mexico City? Tenochtitlan. What is the name of the gold coin minted by Spain during the Age of Discovery? Escudo. What city was designated as the capital of the Confederate States during the American Civil War? Richmond. What was the first script used in Mesopotamian civilization? Cuneiform script. Who was the primary author of the Declaration of Independence in the United States? Thomas Jefferson. Who was the eunuch who led a large fleet across the Indian Ocean and to Africa during the Ming Dynasty? Zheng He. What trial prosecuted Nazi war criminals after World War II? Nuremberg trials. Thank you for watching until the end. We'd love to hear your feedback and historical insights in the comments. Your support helps us create even more history quizzes. Let's keep exploring together.